Hi, I'm Ross Quintana with Social Magnets, and this video is called The Inverse of Social Media Marketing Scalability. I know that's a word, a mouthful. Anyway, I think this is an important topic for people to dig into, because both for small businesses and large businesses trying to use social media marketing, I think that a lot of, I read a lot of stuff online and I see the articles being posted, and I feel like in some ways, people are missing some of the strength and the power and understanding of social media and what it can do. The first thing, when we look at the inverse of social media marketing scalability, what we're looking at is this concept that it's not what everybody sees on the surface about social media, and a lot of times there's a focus on scale. How do we scale it up? How many followers? The social proof and the metrics, and all these, how many fans do I have, and how many likes, and all these companies that are coming out to measure all of this stuff and give analytics. And in a way, they're kind of missing a big piece of this. They're looking at virality, and they see the power of social media as, well, what if our message takes off, and how do we make a viral video, and how do we get content that's shareable and that's going to spread, and how can we talk to a large audience? And what they're really doing is it's old traditional thinking about marketing. So social media is a new tool. So why don't we have a new way of thinking about marketing to go along with that? Because what's happening is people are taking the traditional way of thinking and they're applying it to a new technology, and so in a way they're kind of inhibiting the power and the usefulness of it by thinking of social media in old marketing ways. And what I mean by that is that they're looking at the outward focus. They're looking at this concept that we're going to talk to people. We're going to throw out general messages, and if we have 10,000 or 100,000 or 1 million followers, well, we can just hit them with this message, and look, it's a communications tool, and we can reach out to them just like we used to do in a magazine ad, or in an email blast even, or a billboard, or a radio ad. And this is the wrong way of thinking about social media, because it's this focus on one-way communication. And marketing in general, traditional marketing, has got this one-way, I'm going to talk at you. If the ad is really clever, maybe I'll trick you into thinking that my brand has got a human side to it. I'll play with people's emotions and invoke emotions into it using imagery or anything like that's all old school marketing. And even the low tier, is just sharing information, and then the upper tier marketers would be able to create associations and invoke emotions and do all this. But all of that was in a general sense out to the masses. And what happens is that then the masses, if they figure spaghetti on the wall, throw it out there, and if I share my message to 1 million people, and if it was made by some ad agency that we hired, then all of a sudden maybe we'll get a home run, and some people will be impacted somehow, either to take action or for PR purposes or branding purposes. The problem is that social media it's better than that. Social media can do more. If we look at the inverse of that, and we say that's an outward one-way communication, it's scalable, we can do mass communication this way, and we look at the opposite, the inverse. Inverse, actually, the word, if you break it down, what it means to in turn, or to turn in. And when we're looking at outside, like marketing is pushing out at people and trying to compel them to do what you want. And that's not really a relationship. Well, traditional marketing isn't about relationships. It's about one-way communication in general. And never before in the history of time really have the people been able to talk back. Or have you been able to create a real relationship? If some big company puts an ad on the Super Bowl, they're not creating relationships. they can manipulate emotions and make associations. They're not really creating any real relationships. And social media can do that. Social media can change all of that. And so when we look at the inverse, or we turn inward, we go from the macro, which is the big picture, and go into the micro. And what is the small picture? That's what this message is about. And it's about taking a look at how that can impact. What's the strength? See, the average company probably thinks there's no point. What is the point of talking to one of their customers? I mean, even companies, you look at the way they're structured, and their least paid employees are the frontline employees, the people who are interacting with their customers. And that's, people talk the talk. Oh, that, customer service is so important. Customer's number one. This just isn't true in most cases, because structures will hold that in place, or they're not there to support that. When you have structures where you're least trained and least paid and least communicated with as far as strategic goals and company goals and all that, your least knowledgeable, least communicated with, least paid person is on the front line, and that's who the customer is, or the company is to the customer. That's a backwards way of doing business. And so when we flip that over and we realize that more can be done. You can, you kind of watch business structures and they start going, oh, well, we need more integration and team integration, and let's get the communication channels, and how should we integrate social media to or some of this new technology in order to communicate more to front level employees. They're kind of in a way trying to get there, but they're not. I mean, when the CEOs, oh, well, let's get them a Twitter account and all this, and I was reading something the other day and about this and seeing, there was a post on, I think it was from someone on Facebook, where they were talking about, is it good for the CEOs and that to have social media accounts? And I'd said, well, yeah, well, it is, because what it does is it says it shows transparency, and it shows accessibility to these people that the people have never had before. Here's the decision makers. Now they feel accessible. It doesn't mean they're sitting there on them all day long, but just the idea, just the dream that oh, the CEO of this big company is accessible. That's a PR move in itself to the consumers, to other stakeholders, to people involved in the company. So it's a big deal, even though it's a small thing. That's a great example of taking the inverse, right? Turning in. How do we go from the macro picture into the micro picture and look at what is the power of being able to talk to a single customer in your company? And see, companies haven't wanted to do that. And that's why they mostly don't get social media. They just don't understand. They'll end up just paying somebody a minimum wage, just like they do their frontline employees, or take on an intern to run their social media so that they've got somebody talking to their customer. They just don't generally get the fact that you have the ability to make a real connection with somebody. So before I dig into that, let's back up just a little bit, because I've got about 3 points that I want to cover. And this one will fold back in why that's important, more importantly, after we cover the next two. The first one is what creates buzz. This is worthy of its own talk, and I'm not going to get too deep into it here, but this concept of buzz, and again, it's so funny when all these companies are trying to jump on the bandwagon and get into social, and it's so awkward. It's so awkward in so many ways. Recently, this last week, I was watching The Amazing Race, and every 5 seconds, I posted the classic picture, the Pulp Fiction picture with Samuel L. Jackson with the gun in it, and the quote said, "Say selfie again." I dare you. These guys, oh, we have to go in and take a selfie, and they're given a camera, and then, oh, now we have to take another selfie at this thing, and I'm like, oh my goodness, you're vomiting selfies. The idea, because some exec said, oh, selfies are hot, maybe if we integrate that in, we'll be hip and cool and all this. And no, you can't fake social. You're talking to a savvy group of consumers, and for too many years and decades have companies not really cared about their customers. You know, writing the statement on the wall that says the customer's most important means nothing. Okay? You shouldn't have to tell me. I should be able to look at your systems and your operations and tell you, and I'll tell you if your customers are important. And if they're number one, certainly. Or your employees. You know, it's all propaganda, but it's not backed up with anything of substance. And so when we look at this, you got to understand, you got to be there's the, you know, the sniff test. People can tell what's authentic and what's not. And you know, if you're just trying to fake it, you know, that'll work for very little sliver. But you're also equally showing to a whole nother of intelligent consumers of your, or potential consumers of your product, that you'll say anything to try and get a response, or you'll manipulate them. And so that's marketing for you too, to a whole nother group. So you're pushing certain customers away while you're getting the ones, when you're saying an inauthentic message, you know, some people will fall for most, but a whole other group of people are going to be even more turned off by your company because you're doing that. So you have to be authentic. But what creates buzz? You know, it starts with this concept, when we get at the core levels, of the Me Too. It starts with the concept of people, you know, traditional marketing, you would post out a message, and if it resonated with somebody, you know, if you go to the bank, and what do you get? You get the, oh, we got an Asian woman. You look at the banner and you look at their brochure, and it's got an Asian woman, a black guy, it's got a white person, younger, older. What they're doing is hitting all the different demographics, because what they want you to do when you come into their bank or when you look at their brochure is they want you to see someone who's like you. It's a Me Too response, so that you feel comfortable that this is a place for me. You know, if it was, you know, pictures of just Asian people on it, and everywhere that's all you saw, and you're not Asian, you might go, oh, maybe this bank isn't really representing me. Maybe there's another bank that represents me better. And that's why people weave that stuff in. They want to be inclusive. They want to be diverse, mainly because they don't want to alienate anybody, and they want to make sure that when you come there, you feel like that lines up with you. That's a Me Too situation in marketing. And people are selfish, and so that's why it works. People care about themselves. They care about their own world. They care about the things that they care about, and they don't care about things that they don't care about. Some people care about poodles, and that's their whole life. And boy, if they see an ad with a poodle in it, hey, you got their attention, you know, because they love poodles. Other people, they don't care about poodles, so your poodle ad means nothing to them. So those are things where, when we look at what creates buzz, we have to look at the mechanics of the backside of it, which is, why does it get buzz? It's a mix of context and relevance that happens when the old traditional way, when your message, people can relate to it, when it's in context, which means that the old school targeting was how you made something personal. And you know, you targeted a certain group with certain buzzwords and all these. There's so many elements to it in the marketing world. And what they're doing, it's not only the Me Too, but it's also putting in context. People who, you know, the data that everyone's talking about, big data. It's about, you know, before you knew, oh, they're 18 to 24 and they make about this much money. You didn't have much data. So people didn't really know their customer. And they just had a general idea. And now we have the ability to do so much more. And that creates context. So not only is it relevant to me, but when they start to get to know me better, that plays a role. And that comes down also, once you even get the right context of things that I might care about. You get me, hey, I'm a snowboarder, and you're running in a snowboarding ad, and hey, it looks like, you know, is this ad for women or is it for men? Hey, that kind of looks like I can associate with that, and it's in the context of what I care about. Now you're starting to get through those barriers. It's like the old gatekeeper. You know, every business has that gatekeeper that salespeople are trying to get past to get to the decision makers. We have our personal gatekeepers, and people are trying to get past those. Marketing is trying to get past those in order to get to the decision maker. And what we see here is we see this idea that if you can tune into the me too, if you can put it in the context that is going to meet me where I'm at, and then we get to the third point, which is relevance, and that's a lot of timing. I did real estate for many years, and we did every type of marketing out there you can imagine. And you get approached weekly by all these different, we want to put you on the park bench, and we could put you in the malls, and we could run a TV commercial, or we'll make a flyer for you, or we'll do this and that. And it's like, we want to put you in the grocery stores, on those little dividers that separate the groceries. And it's like, and they'll throw a whole bunch of numbers that are not really in tune with reality. Because see, the problem is, and I have a separate business where I train real estate agents, but one of the problems with spending your money on that is that people who are putting their groceries up there are not looking for a real estate agent. And if they happen to be looking for a real estate agent, right, it's not relevant to them at the time that they're buying groceries. Because when they're looking for a real estate agent, they'll go to a real estate magazine, or they'll go online and they'll do a search and they'll do this and that. Very few people who are distracted and thinking, right, because it's timing. Even though they are looking for a real estate agent, it doesn't mean that when they see that little divider with your name on it, they're going to go, hey, I need a real estate agent, I'm going to call this guy. Because the timing's off, because their mindset is not in the place where they're ready to make that decision. They're not actively looking for it. So you're going to actually get distracted even from your ideal prospect at that time. The timing's wrong. There's no relevant. It's not relevant to them when they're grocery shopping. So when we think about buzz, you have to have those three elements. It has to be a Me Too situation, it has to be in context, and it has to be relevant and timely. Okay? Now, why does this matter? Because when you're looking at social media allows us to do a lot of these things in a way that traditional marketing has never allowed us to do. You can dial in. You know what? There's nothing that's more of a Me Too. When I drive by a billboard, I don't think it was written for me. You got to be pretty good with your billboard to make me think that, wow, they really get me. That resonates so much. It's not to me. It's not personal. The next step that I'm going to talk about is called Talk to Bob, right? Bob's this imaginary customer, your customer avatar, okay? Companies have used all these different things, and they've built systems that are just not right, and they're not smart, and they're not good enough, but they're there because they understand there's a need, and they're getting a little bit of result from it, but not a lot. And the reason is because they didn't pursue it further and find smarter ways. When it comes to, it's so funny, really at my heart, I'm a strategist. And I love marketing because it's a lot of strategy in it. And people are probably some of the most intricate things to understand strategically, how people think and neuromarketing and all these type of things. But as a strategist, you look and you say, great strategy is about understanding and problem solving. And you need both of those. And the more of an expert you are at each one of those, the better the results are going to be. So people have a customer avatar, which is basically like their ideal customer. Smart companies will go out there and say, okay, what's the age range, or what's their income, what do we know about our ideal customer, so that we can build our ads like we're talking to this ideal customer. Now, the thing is in a way that's scalable, in a way it's not, because all of your customers aren't the same. And so doing that is kind of, how do we do traditional marketing better? But it's not how we do next level, next generation marketing good, even mediocre, right? And that's at a much higher bar. There's a whole nother generation of and level of marketing that can be done. So, don't try and be the best at a poor system. The reason why I bring that up as a strategist, when I see problems, people say, oh, well, we got this, we got that. And I'm always thinking, I could come up with 10 other solutions you haven't even thought of yet. Like, it's just lazy thinking when you feel like, oh, we have to do it this way because the alternate is doing it that way. And it's like, you're never put into a box. You've got you've got tremendous. If you find the right creative people and strategic people, there's no, it's like blue ocean strategy. I was listening to that recently, and really the concept behind it is don't go into the red ocean where you're just competing like everybody else. Create this whole new area where you don't have any competition because you're an innovator, because you've created a new way of doing things. And what's really smart about that, and it's funny when I read strategy books, because a lot of these things I just learned, myself through practice and implementation, and then you read a book about it, and it's like, hey, yeah, they get it, because that's exactly what I've done for a long time. It's called, one of my favorite books from Al Rees and Jack Trout is Positioning, because it was like someone just cracked open my brain and spilled a bunch of stuff out about how I think and the way that I do things. That I've done a lot of these things in many different aspects of my life, and to see someone write about it was it's a great book. And one of the things they say is be first or create a new category, and that's essentially blue ocean strategy. If you're not going to be able to dominate, then create something new. Well, when you're a good problem solver, you'll be able to find new ways and think of new ways to solve the problem. We don't have to be stuck with this old way of thinking of traditional marketing. We don't have to be stuck with this spaghetti on the wall, customer avatar. That's like the ABCs of targeting, really. Now people take it to an extreme and do all this. It's still the ABCs. They might as well be kids finger painting, because the fact is that a customer avatar, right, is saying, hey, we're willing to get to know and then generalize our customer and then make a one-size-fits-all so that we can then mass market to, strategically to this customer avatar. But the fact is that, it's just like the South by Southwest on Tinder. They were talking about people. I didn't actually look into it or read the article yet, but I have an idea of what it was. That people were falling in love with this AI girl, this made up person, and that made me think of falling in love with robots. That's exactly what traditional marketing's been doing. They've been falling in love with robots, because at the end of the day, it's kind of a novelty that, we can make, right, where we think of AI right now, we can make a robot that seems human. You ask it a question and it goes to its database and it responds with an answer. And if you're not into that world, you'll think, the common person walking by is like, wow, this is like this person's real, and they're kind of making the skin look real, and look how close it is. But you realize it's just programming, right? It's not learning necessarily. I mean, there's some people on the fringe of that, but the whole point is that at the end of the day, it's a robot. You can fall in love with a robot, but it's a robot. It's still a poor human. The best robot is an inadequate human being with the things that we can do. And that's kind of how marketing is. There's a lot of people who their best attempts at targeting the market and doing this and branding, and for the most part, it's still not human. It's pretty good in a robotic way. And the reality is, with social media, you no longer have to do that. You don't have to pretend of your customer is an avatar. Your customer's right there. There's a photo of them right there. You could see a picture of their kids right there. You can get to know them. You can reach out and talk to them. A big company can go out and talk. So like I said, talk to Bob. Bob's your customer. And most customers, this is the inverse side of scalability. Everyone wants to scale big, and they don't understand the big value is actually in being able to talk to one customer. If you talk to one of your customers, you can make a huge impact. And there's a couple of reasons why this is powerful. Number one, people have been falling in love with products. They're mildly affected by branding and association. Okay? That's where most of marketing's been put into as association, which is ultimately just a reflection of them. If it resonates with your customer, all you're doing is kind of advertising them back to themselves, and then putting your product in between, like interruption marketing, and saying, hey, things you like, and hey, our product, and that's you, isn't it? And it's kind of like someone who is like, most marketing is like politicians, like it'll say whatever it thinks it needs to say or what you want to hear in order to get you to take that action. But it could be done better. It could be done authentically. And this is what small business owners have been doing for a long time. You walk into a little hardware shop, and what happens? The owner comes out and greets you with a smile and cares, and he's cleaning the floors, and he wants your experience to be great because he wants you to come back. The problem is big business, you're never going to get that at big business. You're just not. A policy doesn't create the same desire as the owner who's invested $300,000 into that store and needs to pay for that equipment and has put his life work into it, and he wants to make sure every one of his customers is happy. So if the owner walks into the store, what do you think all those employees do? They're trying to be perfect, trying to be awesome in front of the owner. And if the owner's working there, it's going to be great. So policy can't quite do that because there's not the same buy-in from the employees. Great culture can start to do that. And again, that's that ABCs. That's that finger painting of trying to do what's needed, but not really knowing how to do it and trying to make an effort, even though it could be done smarter. So we talk about talking to Bob. Okay? The great thing about talking to Bob is if one of the products that I already enjoy, I got my Samsung phone here. Okay? I've owned the iPhones. I've owned, I've done all different phones. I like different phones. Right now, I'm using the Note. I like that phone. And, Samsung could reach out to me and talk to me and ask my opinion about their phone. I'm not talking about I could go to their website and I could submit an email that probably goes nowhere. Who knows who reads it, and nothing comes of it. Forget about that. People are like, oh, we're already doing that. No, you're not. You could reach out and talk to me. I'm on Twitter, okay, all the time. You could start a conversation. You can find me on Facebook. And you could talk to me about your product. And you know what? If I already love your product, you could help me love it more. You could just acknowledge that and create a real relationship. And now, instead of it just being a name across the top, I have an actual relationship attachment to that. Not an association with marketing, but an actual relationship with somebody. Okay? And it doesn't have to be the lowest level hourly employee either. Okay? I could talk to somebody. People are crowdsourcing and finding innovative ideas from people because they're starting to listen. And they're reaching out. And the people who are doing development can actually reach out. The people who are designing this can say, hey, what do you think of this design? And they can target people and say, hey, I'm going to not only talk to my customers, but customers who also maybe know a little bit about design or know this and that. And I can reach out. And you know what? That's something you wouldn't forget. I wouldn't forget, and I would have a new attachment that no marketing or billboard actually would change the context of every marketing piece and billboard I saw after that. Because now I have that's like, it's like if your friend has a business and then you see their sign and that's your buddy owns that business. That means something different to you than just seeing an ad that looks nice or that of a product that you like. It becomes personal, and this is the power of inverting the scalability. Not that I can talk to 10,000 people, that I could talk to one person. That is the power that has not been accessible up until this point. And big companies and small companies alike don't get it. You see, a small company already has that personal edge, but now they can actually scale it with social media because everyone's watching. See, when you talk to Bob, all the other followers are watching. Bob, if he's talking back to you, all of his friends and family are watching. Talk about getting a referral, right? Now they get to see that relationship. And now they can connect not just to the product, but they know Bob likes your product, and they know you're a person who's having a conversation and that there's a relationship there. And now that's a real referral. That's not just, hey, try a Samsung product. I like Samsung products. That's something more. And that's what most people are missing. Huge opportunity. Hopefully people are going to figure that out and understand that power, because it creates opportunities. Because now all the other customers that are listening to you talk, now those people who wouldn't have called your 800 line might reach out to you and talk because they see you talking to somebody else. They see actual interaction and engagement, and they're going to say, hey, I had a great idea for your product, or let me tell you something that I don't like about your product so that you can fix it. And that becomes so powerful. That is everything. Companies don't know, they don't get it yet. They don't understand the power of being able to talk to your customers in real time. They just don't get it. And, you could be later on the curve 10 years from now when people get it and figure it out, and then you start to try and do it, and then things might be shifting again, or you can get into it right now and start understanding how powerful that is. And this goes for everybody. It's not just companies. It's big companies, small companies. It's people who are on social media. It's people who are even being social with their own network. People probably think, oh, okay, we've got a pretty good size amount of followers, and people probably think, oh, it's like when I was doing it. I would talk at different people online, and some of these people with really big accounts, you think, oh, they're not going to talk to me about it. And there's a handful of people that will. A lot of them don't. I'm one of those people. Well, yeah, I talk back. I get on and I engage with people. Why? Because first of all, I remember what it was like, when I had 100 followers, and now I'm, moving towards 100,000 followers, and things are different. And now to be able to take, whether it's a blogger or somebody there, and not only reach out and get to meet that person. People are incredible, and you meet the most wonderful people. And maybe they don't have 100,000 followers. But it doesn't matter. Someday, maybe they are going to. Because quality people, they start somewhere. They start from the day they open the account. And you don't have to have 100,000 followers to be quality either. For some people, that's not the goal. But the fact is how can I help you? How can I get to know you and there might be something we can do together or collaborate, or maybe you've got something that you care about and I can share that out and help you out. I love doing that. And I respected when I was coming up the people there were some really great people who were very approachable and accessible, and I knew that they were busy and influential and stuff, and that meant a lot. So I love to be able to turn around and do that for other people who are getting started. But that's the power even for the individual that you can do, is you can go out and you can do that with people. Next we see the last point is small businesses have, so we talked about how they're small, but now they can scale up with social media, right? Because now instead of just talking to that one person who comes into their hardware store, they're talking to that person, they're talking to all their customers. Their customers can see how they're engaging with one of their other customers. That creates new opportunities. And then third, that person's friends and family now are seeing that as well. You can't get more scalable, but it comes from having one real conversation. And big businesses can do the opposite. Big companies can sit there and reach out and talk to their actual customers and get personal. And the same thing does scale for them. But most of them miss that opportunity because they're too busy trying to just spam people and spread mass messages instead of realizing they should be having individual conversations. That is turning in. That is looking at the micro. And what you'll understand as you get into social science or marketing or anything, when you get really, and it doesn't matter what it is how interconnected everything is. So when you handle that micro, right, it's just like understanding germs. They didn't understand germs for a long time. So they're operating on people in medicine, and people are dying and getting infected because they're going from one patient, they're not washing their hands, they're not washing the utensils. They couldn't see germs. They didn't know why people were getting sick. But when you manage the micro, it impacts the macro. Okay? So think about that when it comes to your marketing. I hope you've enjoyed this talk. Feel free to subscribe to our YouTube. I'm just now getting into video. I've been busy doing my own projects, helping clients and working on my first book and everything else that I do, and I got 7 kids, so it keeps me busy. But I'm really trying to get more and do some more videos. If you like, I'd love to hear your feedback and your comments, and subscribe, and hopefully more of my blog posts. I'm going to be doing 2 series of videos. Might even start up a podcast, not sure. But we're going to have some that are about 30 minutes long, and then some shorter clips for people who are on the go, like 3-minute videos and stuff. So anyway, check back with us. Hope you have an excellent day. Till next time, I'll see you later.